وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا ووفقنا للعمل فيما يرضيك عنا بجاه النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وبرحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ثم أما بعد. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for gathering us in a house from amongst His houses to remember the verses of the Quran al-Kareem and to ponder upon the blessed life of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and blessings upon our Master Sayyidina Mohammed sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, upon His blessed family, His loyal companions, and all of those who followed after with excellence up until the day of standing. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Thereafter, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, مَجْتَمَعَ قَوْمٌ فِي بَيْتٍ مِّن بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ يَتْلُونَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَيَتَدَارَسُونَهُ فِيمَا بَيْنَهُمْ إِلَّا نَزَلَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّكِينَةُ وَحَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَغَشِيَتْهُمُ الرَّحْمَةُ وَذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِندَهُ. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, never have a people come together in a house from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يَتْلُونَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَيَتَدَارَسُونَهُ, reciting the book of Allah and studying it, إِلَّا نَزَلَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّكِينَةُ, except that tranquility and peace and comfort descends upon them from the heavens. وَحَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ, and they are encompassed and enveloped by the angels. وَغَشِيَتْهُمُ الرَّحْمَةُ, and Allah's mercy engulfs them. وَذَكَرَهُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِندَهُ, and the best and the highest and the most elect of rewards for people who sit in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala studying and reciting the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, وَذَكَرَهُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِندَهُ, Allah makes mention of those people who sit upon the earth in the houses of Allah. Allah makes mention of those people with the angels in the highest of ranks. So we can imagine how we sit upon the earth in the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah Azza wa Jalla is making mention of us in a higher realm. So coming to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is indeed a great blessing, and it's a place of tranquility, a place of comfort, a place of ease, a place where Allah's mercy is descending for those who become recipients of it. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would encourage his companions, and he would say, إِذَا مَرَرْتُمْ بِرِيَاضِ الْجَنَّةِ فَارْتَعُوا, if you pass by the gardens of paradise, then stop in. And the Sahaba said, وَمَا رِيَاضُ الْجَنَّةِ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, what are the gardens of paradise, Messenger of Allah? And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Al-Masajid, the masjids, the gardens of paradise. And in another narration he said, حِلَقُ الذِّكْرِ, he said, circles of remembrance, where you come together with others, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, studying the Quran al-Kareem, making mention of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, these are gardens of paradise. So, the topic that we have for today is Islamophobia. And as the brother, he said that this is not a new topic to us, but it's something that we must understand, and it's something that every Muslim in every era, in every time, has, to some extent or the other, had to deal with. And sometimes it's more intense than other times. And it was never ever as intense in any time, in any situation, in any era, in any century, the way it was intense and difficult upon the Messenger of Allah, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, himself and his companions around him. We might see Islam being looked upon as terror, as frightening. People might look towards us and take a step back. People might think, oh my God, that's another Muslim, right? But in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself, the trouble and the trauma and the difficulty that he went through because of the misunderstandings and because of the enmity of some that they had against the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions in the religion, there will never be a time, and there has never been a time after that, where Muslims have been through greater and more intensified difficulty than that. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he began to call people towards Islam in Makkah al-Mukarramah, the Meccan society was a very difficult, hostile society towards the Prophet ﷺ after he began to announce his messengership. Before that, they knew the Prophet ﷺ for 40 years, and they said that he is as-sadiq al-amin, the most truthful and the most trustworthy sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when he was given the message by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he had to deliver that message. And from amongst the 6 necessary attributes of all of the prophets and messengers, one of them is at-tabligh. One of them is to deliver on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the message that Allah gives them, they must deliver it to the people after them. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was to deliver this message. So he stood upon a mountain in Makkah known as Abi Qubais. It was a very famous mountain in Makkah. He stood upon this mountain and he called out. And the Makkah mountains are very high. How many of you been to Makkah? Come on, raise your hands. Yeah? MashaAllah. When's that taking you? Soon. InshaAllah. So the mountains of Makkah are very high. And the Prophet ﷺ stood upon the mountain of Abi Qubais, and he looked down. And Makkah was a very, very small city. It's still small now. It's not a very big place. They say, but how can it take millions of people every year in Hajj? Sometimes they have like 6-7 million people in Makkah, when it's only a tiny city, right? The scholars have said, Makkah is like the mother's womb. Makkah is like the mother's womb. How can the mother's womb carry a baby? Right? It's beyond the intellect of man. Likewise, this tiny city of Makkah al-Mukarramah, it's like the mother's womb. If the whole of mankind got together in Makkah, it still have space for more. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ stood upon the mountain of Abi Qubais and he looked down and he could see the Ka'bah al-Musharrafah. And the Makkans, there weren't many of them, maybe a few thousand, if that. He called upon them, so they all came rushing. And he said to them, what do you know about me? What's your experience with me? And they said, مَا جَرَّبْنَا عَلَيْكَ كَذِبًا. We've never experienced you lying. أَنْتَ الصَّادِقُ الْأَمِينُ. You're the most truthful and the most trustworthy. So the Prophet ﷺ said to them, if I inform you that there's an army coming from behind this mountain to attack you, will you trust me? They said, of course we will trust you, we believe you, because we've never experienced you lying. So the Prophet ﷺ said to them, if that's the case, then know that I am the messenger of Allah ﷺ, and know that Allah has sent me to warn you against His punishment. Allah has sent me to deliver His message unto you. Now, in a split second, one moment they were saying he's the most truthful, and suddenly when he tells them that he's the messenger of Allah, his own uncle, Abu Lahab, what does he say? He said, تَبًّا لَكَ أَلِهَذَا جَمَعْتَنَا. He said, may you be destroyed. Is this why you gathered us? Can you see how he had such a split personality? Immediately he switched. But who did he switch against? He switched against the Prophet ﷺ. And he switched against him in the midst of all of the Makkah people. Like for example, the scholars have said, you should never tell off a child in front of other children. Why? Because that child will become even more humiliated and feel low and down and dislike that. And even if you're telling them off for the correct reason, that child will rebel. This is why you see in schools that teachers take out the children, put them to the side, and say, okay, you done this wrong. Likewise, parents should do the same. They shouldn't tell off their children in front of others. Why? Because it's really humiliating. But look at what these people done to the Prophet ﷺ. They humiliated him before all of the Makkah people. But the Prophet ﷺ, because he had a very high message that he wanted to deliver to them. His objectives and goals were so high that regardless of the enmity and hostility and hatred that they put forth to him, he just carried on, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He didn't care about what they did to him. You know, like if you go shopping, and I oftentimes watch this very carefully. You're at Tesco or Asda and you've got your shopping trolley and you've put everything on the counter and you're watching the person before you being served, right? And if you watch them, sometimes you'll see the person in front of you, once they've taken their bags, they'll say thank you to the person at the counter. Others won't bother, just pick up their bags and trap, right? Sometimes you'll see people starting to argue with the people at the counter, okay, this is wrong, you didn't treat me well. But you know, the person behind the counter, they can't speak in the same way that the customer is speaking to them. Why? Because they've been trained in customer service. They've been trained that sometimes you'll have people who be polite, and sometimes you'll have people who are rude. Likewise, for example, if you have a call from British Gas or your electricity company or something, and the people at the call center, they're trained that sometimes you'll have people who start swearing at you. Put the phone down. Don't say anything to them, just put the phone down. Right? Say, sorry, this is not acceptable language, I'll have to cut the call. Right? But they're not allowed to say the same. Why? Because they've got something to deliver. They've got a product to sell. Right? So if these people at the counter at Tesco or Asda start arguing back, they lose out on customers. Right? But they need to understand the mentality that sometimes you have good customers and sometimes you have bad customers. Don't ever let the bad customers put you down. Don't let the bad customers ever humiliate you. Don't let the bad customers make you give up. The Prophet ﷺ had the same. He had good customers like Abu Bakr, Umar, Usman, and Ali, and the rest of the companions. And then he had bad customers like Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab and Utbah and Shaykh and the rest of the mob. Right? But he didn't let that mob put him down, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He continued with his blessed head high, striving the way he had to. His uncle Abu Talib was the leader of Quraysh at the time. So the Makkans would go to Abu Talib and say, speak to your nephew. You know, he's introducing a new religion. He's splitting between our families. You have a son who becomes Muslim. The rest of the family is not Muslim. You have a husband who becomes Muslim. You have a wife who becomes Muslim. And he's splitting between our families. But in reality, it wasn't Islam that was splitting between their families. It was them who were splitting their families up by not accepting the truth. By not accepting the truth, they were breaking down in their families. So they went to Abu Talib, his uncle, and said, look, tell the Prophet ﷺ to give up. And they tried to bribe the Prophet ﷺ, and they tried to threaten him. They tried to threaten him with death, with everything. It didn't work. So they said, okay. They said to Abu Talib, speak to your nephew and ask him, if he wants kingdom amongst us, we'll make him a king. If he wants to become our leader, we'll give him leadership. If he wants the most wealth, we'll collect all of the Arabian camels and give them to him. If he wants land, we'll give him land. If he wants property, we'll give him property. So Abu Talib comes and says, nephew, to the Prophet, nephew, this is what your people are saying to me. And I'm just delivering what they've said. You know, if you want to become a king, they'll give you kingship. If you want this, if you want that, everything. You know what the Prophet ﷺ said? He said, لو وضعوا الشمس في يميني والقمر في يساري ما تركت أمري هذا. He said, if they put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand, I don't want anything that they're giving me, but I'll never give up in passing this religion on to others. Even if people are speaking against me, do you know how evil it was against the Prophet ﷺ? We find people, perhaps at times here and there, you know, they might point at you and say, that's a Muslim, and make stories and say things. And it's probably, in most cases, it's probably because of ignorance. People genuinely don't know, right? They only know what they hear. They only know what they see. Isn't that right? People only know what they hear, what they see. And what they hear in the media every day, every minute, is hatred against Muslims, is propaganda against Muslims, is to make Muslims look low, to make Muslims look as if you're the worst of people, etc. But it's not as bad for us as it was for the Prophet ﷺ. Why? Because we are nobodies. We are nobodies. And you know the Prophet ﷺ, he was the highest. He was the most elect. He was the most beautiful. He was the most generous, the most handsome, the greatest of Allah's creation. You know, he would walk in the streets of Makkah and he would invite people and introduce Islam to them and speak to them about Islam. His own uncle Abu Jahl would say, don't listen to him, he's a liar. That's what he would say. But the Prophet ﷺ knew he's just a bad customer. If I stop and give him attention, I lose out on what I have to do. So you never give a madman attention. One of our teachers, Shaykh used to say, if you give a madman attention, you've given him audience. And if you give a madman audience, you have made him the superstar that he wants to be. But if you walk away from a madman who's saying whatever he has to say, then you couldn't have slapped him harder. Right? You couldn't have slapped him harder. You move away from a madman. You don't give him attention. You don't give him any concern. You continue to deliver what you have. So that's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ did. He continued. He let these people do and say as they wish. Deep down in their hearts, they knew he was the truthful one. But they didn't want to accept. Why? There's many reasons why people don't want to accept. Sometimes it's because they're arrogant, they just think too much of themselves, think to be too good for others. Sometimes it's ignorance, they don't know about the religion, as Allah said in the Quran. Allah said, أَمْ لَمْ يَعْرِفُوا رَسُولَهُمْ فَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. And this is something very important for all of us. Allah said about the Makkans, Allah said, is it that they did not know their messenger, so hence they denied him? Which means what? Which means that there were some people from amongst them who actually didn't know about the Prophet ﷺ. They didn't know about his qualities, his attributes, and so hence they denied him. And this is a great possibility in our times that many of the people who are denying Islam and many of the people who are opposing Islam and speaking against this religion and have a phobia of this religion, they're frightened and scared of this religion. It's because of a genuine ignorance that they have. They don't know about Islam, right? And that comes back to all of us. It comes back to all of us in that how adamant are we and how committed are we in delivering this religion to others. You know, when people in the time of the Prophet ﷺ would become Muslim, when they would accept Islam, they wouldn't say, okay, I'm Muslim, that's good enough. No, they would go out to their colleagues and friends and speak to them about Islam. You know, they'd have a meal with them, go out for a coffee, have lunch with them, take them out, whatever. And just speak about their religion, drop it in nice and subtly, nice and easily, so these people start thinking about the religion. Right? But that's something that we don't do. And then we think, why are these people so scared of us? It's because they don't know you. You've never introduced yourself. You've never spoken about yourself. You've never recited the Quran to them. You've never spoken about the Prophet ﷺ to them. Isn't that right? So hence people who have a phobia are scared of Islam. Sometimes, and a lot of times, it's because of us. It's because we don't introduce ourselves. We don't let people know who we are. We don't let people know who we are. Once one of our teachers, he came and before he spoke, I went up and I was supposed to call him up, and what I said that the Shaykh doesn't need an introduction, right? And then another Shaykh turned up just as I was saying that, so I had to give him time to speak also. So he came and he said, no, the Shaykh does need an introduction. He said, because there's so many people in this gathering who won't know who this person is. And if we don't introduce him, they won't take the utmost benefit that they can from him. Likewise, if we don't introduce the Prophet ﷺ to people and speak about his high, lofty nature, how he was different to the rest of human beings, how he was, even though he was sent in the form of a human being, but he was something beyond. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him miracles within his body, within his person, within his life, even after his life, which makes him a miraculous person, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And to speak about his generosity, to speak about his care, to speak about his love and his affection, and his greatness. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had a greatness to him. And anybody who came into any type of interaction of that greatness just loved him and submitted to him. There was a man in the Arabian Peninsula, his name was Rukana. How many of you heard of Rukana? Nobody's heard of Rukana? Okay, you can hear about him today. Is that okay? So, was it WWF? Is that right? What's WWF? There you go. Rukana was the WWF of that time. He was the wrestling champion of the Arabs. Nobody could wrestle down Rukana. So he heard about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu, a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, the palms of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Ma masastu dibadin wala harina alyana min kaffi Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." He said, the palm of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said it was softer than silk. It was softer than silk. He said, the natural scent of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's body, it was more beautiful than musk. Right? It was more beautiful than musk. So Rukana hears that now there's a prophet amongst the Arabs. He said, let's go check him out. So he comes to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, I hear you're a prophet. He said, indeed I am. I am the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he introduces himself. So Rukana says, okay, I'm a wrestler. You might be a prophet, I'm a wrestler. If you can get me down, I believe that you're the messenger of Allah. So the Prophet ﷺ said to him, fine, let's go ahead. People will shout, this man whose hands are softer than silk is taking on the wrestling champion of the Arabs. So the Prophet ﷺ brings his hand forth and grabs onto the hand of Rukana and has him down immediately. Right? Rukana's like, what the heck happened there? He jumps up and he says, let's try again. And the Prophet ﷺ grabs his hand and has him to the ground once again. And Rukana was a bit lost now. He said, let's try it the third time now. Even though the Prophet ﷺ had him down twice, what's one time going to do? So the Prophet ﷺ said to him, fine, stand up again. He stood up again, and the Prophet ﷺ had him down again. Right? After he saw this, he said, you know what? You must be the messenger of Allah. Because nobody can get me down. And if you've got me down, that must mean that you are a true prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ was great. He was described as fakhman mufakhama. He was described to be great in himself and great in the eyes of all other people. That greatness of the Prophet ﷺ, we have not introduced that to the people around us. So hence, they are hearing news about him ﷺ from the wrong media outlets. So hence, what do? They believe in that. You believe in what you read and what you hear and what you see. So if If all of the world is speaking horrible about somebody, you're going to believe in that. But if everybody is speaking so beautifully about somebody, you're going to believe in that. Is that clear? So we live in a time where there's a phobia, where there's people are scared, people are frightened. But why are they scared and frightened? It's because of what they hear and what they see, what they read. For example, when in Denmark, when they made the cartoons, right, against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's nothing new. You know what the Makkans done to the Messenger of Allah and his person, his body sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was much worse. You know, one day the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was praying in Masjid al-Haram in Makkah al-Mukarramah, besides the Kaaba al-Musharrafah. He was praying, and a group of disbelievers, non-Muslims, were sitting in the masjid. And they said to each other, they said, okay, somebody has slaughtered a camel. Who's going to go take out the insides of that camel and throw on Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he makes it? Tell me, that's much worse than making a cartoon, isn't it? This is the actual physical body of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So one of them, he stood up and he was the worst of them and the most wretched of them. He said, I'll do it. So when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went into sajda, he picked up the insides of this camel and he threw them on the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet continued his sajda until his blessed daughter Sayyidah Fatima Zahra, who was only a young girl at the time, she removed it from the back of her father and she cleansed the back of her father and he completed his prayer. Right? So that was much worse than the cartoons that we saw. But how did we see Muslims react at that time? We had Muslims shouting, we had Muslims protesting, we had Muslims doing all sorts of different things. Right? But we have to respond in the most appropriate of ways and the most sensible of ways. And you know, one of the most beautiful things that I had was, you've heard of the country called Morocco. Next to Morocco, there's a tiny country called Mauritania. Mauritania is a country that's rich with a lot of scholars. When the scholars of Mauritania heard that there are people in Europe speaking against the Prophet ﷺ, do you know what they started to do? They started to write poems describing the Prophet ﷺ. They started to write poems describing him, speaking about his greatness. So they said, if these people speak against him, then it's our job to introduce him even more, because perhaps they didn't understand him or they didn't know about him. Right? And that's exactly what we need to be doing, is we need to be speaking about the Prophet ﷺ, writing about the Prophet ﷺ. You know, in different places that I have traveled to, I've always asked people to write poems for the Prophet ﷺ. And people in different languages, in different countries of the world, have wrote so many poems for the Prophet ﷺ. We have to express what we have inside of our hearts for the Messenger of Allah ﷺ and make his greatness known to the world. And when they hear these beautiful words of the Quran being described, the Messenger of Allah being described, beautiful religion of Islam being described, you know, that's going to enter into their hearts like honey. And all of the noise that they hear, they'll just say that's just pollution. Right? And we want to save our ears from it. So indeed, there's a phobia, there's a scare factor, people are frightened, people are scared. But how can we become active in getting rid of that phobia? Right? It's no good just speaking that there's a phobia. Obviously, there's a phobia, there's always been a phobia. It's been from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. But how are you going to become an active participant in getting rid of it or lessening it? By introducing, by speaking, by letting people know what you have on Islam. I'll give you an example. Some years ago, I was in a masjid and there was a group of new Muslim women. They had newly accepted Islam. One lady, she said to me, she said, I've accepted Islam, but I'm worried my husband hasn't accepted Islam. So I asked her, I said, tell me about your husband. What type of person is he? And she said he's a very simple person. You know, he's not too studied. He just gets on with his work and gets on with life. I said, fine. I said, have you spoken to him about Islam? She said, yeah, I spoke to him about the 5 pillars and believing in Allah and believing in the Messenger of Allah and so on and so forth. But he still hasn't accepted. I said to her, have you not spoken to him about your experiences as a Muslim? What change have you felt? What difference have you felt whilst now that you're a Muslim than when you weren't a Muslim? She said, I've never spoken to him about my experiences. I said to her, speak to him about your personal experiences and how you feel as a Muslim. And that's what's important in our times. People don't want long-winded talks and talk about this and talk about that. People want to know how you feel. So that's why on Facebook you have all of these funny faces now, right? People say feeling exciting, feeling emotional, feeling sad, feeling this. People want to know how you feel. Why? Because you know the buzz of life is not with talk, it's with the feeling. Do you get it? You know, like if you go to like a theme park, right? If you go to a theme park, you don't listen to poetry and you don't listen to lectures and talks. You go on rides and you come off the ride and you're feeling excited. You know, and you feel, wow, that was a buzz. You know those feelings, that's what people are after, right? So I said to her, go and speak to him about your feeling as a Muslim. She came back within 1 week and said he's accepted Islam. 1 week, she came back and she said he accepted. I said, how did he accept Islam? She said, I spoke to him about my feelings as a Muslim. What change I found, what I discovered new in Islam that I didn't have before. When he had my sentiments, when he had my feelings, he accepted Islam. Do you get it? So what's important is how we can reduce this phobia, how we can become active participants in lessening it. For the, you know, the shaitan, if the shaitan goes for a job, he gets a job anyway. You know why? Because he has work experience from the time of Adam alayhi salam. Right? You know, his CV is like massive. Right? It doesn't matter how many degrees you've got nowadays, it's about your work experience. If you've got work experience, you can get a job. If you don't have work experience, you might have a PhD, they'll say, go and find a cheapy job and get some experience and come back to us. You know the shaitan, he has work experience from the time of Adam alayhi salam. He'll get a job anywhere. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَيَجْرِي مِنْ ابْنِ آدَمَ مَجْرَى الدَّمِ, that the shaitan runs around human beings the way our blood circulates around us. This is how he runs around in our bodies, right? So the shaitan is never going to give up on what? He's never going to give up on creating a phobia, a factor of fear against Islam in the hearts of non-Muslims. But you know, we live in a time whereby there are so many Muslims who feel humiliated, who feel disgraced, who feel, I can't associate myself to Islam now. Do you know there's so many Muslims who are changing their Muslim names into non-Muslim names because they don't want to be identified as Muslims. Why? Because they don't want to be looked down upon, they don't want to be humiliated, they don't want to be tested and tried. But what we have to remember is that the tests that the Prophet ﷺ and his companions who are around him went through are much greater than the tests that we're going through. You know, one companion came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Messenger of Allah, I've had enough. This is too difficult. What's too difficult? You know, the Meccan people used to torture them. They used to abuse them, insult them, throw stones at them, took rubbish in their way, right? And if some of the Muslims were slaves with the non-Muslims, they beat them really bad, like Sayyidina Bilal ibn Rabah al-Habashi radiallahu anhu. He was severely beaten in Makkah al-Mukarramah. But he didn't give up on his religion. He didn't denounce Islam. He didn't say, okay, I don't want to get bust up again. I'm not a Muslim. I'll change my name. I won't hang around with the Prophet. He didn't do any of that. One companion came and he said, Messenger of Allah, it's getting too difficult. You know what the Prophet ﷺ said to that person? The Prophet ﷺ said to the companion, he said, do you know, there were people who went before you, i.e., people who followed prophets and messengers who went before you. A person from amongst them would be tortured so severely that their bodies would be combed with heated iron. Their bodies would be combed with heated iron from head to toe, and they wouldn't denounce their religion. They wouldn't give up on their religion. Right? So attacks against the religion and people of religion have always been. Why? Because the shaitan doesn't like you guys. Do you like the shaitan? You don't like him. Guess what? He doesn't like you too. Right? He doesn't like you too. And you know, when he doesn't like you, he's going to fight against you. But you have to do the same. If you don't like him, you have to stand up to him. Do you get it? But if you say, I don't like you, but I'm not going to do anything, you carry on. You don't like me, but you're going to bust me up every day. Right? That's not fair. If you don't like him, you have to do something. And what you have to do, you have to be strong on your principles. You have to introduce your religion. You have to announce your religion day in and day out. You cannot become humiliated, lowered by your identity. By your identity. I'll give you an example, a true example of a sister from Austria. She's originally from Taiwan. But she lives in Austria. She accepted Islam. You can hear her story of Islam on YouTube. I've got a clip. You can listen to that. I'm not going to repeat that now. If you just type in Taiwanese sister or something like this on the YouTube page, you will find that clip. What I want to mention is one of the things that she said was that she comes from, she lives in Austria. What's the capital of Austria? Vienna, right? She was living on the outskirts of Vienna, and once a week or twice a week she would catch a train from where she lived into Vienna to buy groceries and halal meat and whatsoever. And she'd do this every day. That's like once a week or twice a week, that's normal. She said one day she went to a gathering of sisters, and suddenly there was one woman. The sister said, I hadn't really seen her before. She said, she came to me and said, it's you, sister. I said, sorry, I don't think we've met before. Maybe you are mistaken for somebody else. She said, no, it's you. She said, I watched you for the past 2 years on that train from the outskirts of Vienna to the city center with your hijab on. Every time you'd be on the train, I'd be on the same train. She said, I watched you for 2 years, and the dignity that you carried, and the honor that you walked with, and the identity that you had, just inspired me without you speaking a word. Without you speaking a word. So hence then I went to find my way to Islam, and I entered into this religion. How did that woman come to Islam? Not by somebody giving a talk, or listening to a talk, or anything like that. Just by looking at a Muslim, another person accepted Islam. Just by looking at that person. That's it. You know, once I was traveling from Leicester to Birmingham on the train. This was a few years ago. And I was coming back from university. And I was sitting in the train, and the place that I was sitting, there was a table in front. So there's 2 seats this side and 2 seats that side. So I was on this side of the table. And then suddenly a lady came and sat on the opposite side. She was originally Chinese. And she said to me, we have one of you in our office. I said, yes. She said, then I thought, okay. She said, we have one of you in our office. She said, I'm a PhD student at Loughborough University, and she said, we have a Muslim in the office. She said, he's a very dedicated person. Every time, at lunchtime, he puts down his, I said, prayer mat. She said, yes, and he stands to pray. SubhanAllah, I don't know who this Muslim was, but I prayed for him so much that his dedication was a means for people looking towards Islam with goodness. You know, when we raise ourselves, then this phobia will disappear. But when we leave our religion and just roam around like nobodies and don't discipline ourselves with this religion and don't affiliate onto it with conviction, then what happens is people will obviously fear. Because if we don't want to do anything, if we don't want to be connected to the religion, then why should others not be scared of that religion? She said to me, that person is so dedicated that when we're sitting down eating our food, he'll stand and pray. I thought, look at how beautiful of an introduction of Islam this person is given. And she said that he's never spoken to us about Islam, but you know, his actions speak louder than his words. And then she said to me, I want to go and visit a masjid. You know what she said? She said, is it possible for me to come into a masjid? I said, of course it is. But you know the fact, she was frightened. She thought, I can't go into a masjid. Who am I that I can go into a masjid? Which means what? That our masjids are not accessible to the wider community out there. They feel that there's a barrier between us and these masjids, these houses of Allah. You know, these barriers that we've created, that's one of the major causes of this phobia, right? It's not the only cause, but it's the cause that we can work on actively to get rid of. The other cause is we can't really do anything about it. The media is just going to carry on speaking what it's got to speak, and so on, right? For example, we can do something on that front too. We have hundreds, millions of Muslims who got Facebook here. They wake up in the morning and take a picture of their breakfast and say, I'm having this for breakfast. They go out with their mates and take pictures. Nobody wants to know what the heck you eat, right? Nobody wants to know what time you wake up. People want to know about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And when you introduce your religion, introduce the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that's when this phobia will start to disappear. And it's very important that we start to take these steps actively. You know why? Because you know the younger generation of Muslims and kids in schools, they're actually becoming very humiliated. Do you know why? Because every time there's an attack out there, and they go back to school Monday morning, the teachers say, oh, sorry to hear the Muslims have attacked again. And all these Muslim children are thinking, I'm a Muslim, I didn't do no attack. You get it? So it's very important that we start, as a community, start to constructively think how we're going to educate ourselves, our young ones, and the wider community concerning Islam, concerning Muslims, concerning the masjids that we have, the madrasas we have, the communities that we set up. We have to bring in other people so that they can see us, live with us, interact with us, so that when our children go to, and interact with the schools that our children go to. You know, oftentimes, and this is very sad, I get to work with lots of schools where there's a lot of Muslim children, right? Primary schools and secondary schools. Parents don't interact with the schools. They just about turn out to parents' evenings. Just about. Right? That's it. More than that, they're not bothered. You know, as long as the kid's in there from 9 to 3, and then took them in the masjid after that, I'm fine. It's not going to work like that. You know why? Because the world is too fast. Right? These gadgets have, they've speeded up the world so much that if we don't keep tabs on things, if we don't keep watch on schools, on our children, on their interaction, they actually become so humiliated about their identity that they'll say, I'm not a Muslim. And we're having that now. We have so many cases of young people at university, at colleges, who are denouncing Islam. Why? Because their Muslim identity wasn't strengthened from a young age. And how is it that it becomes strong? Not just by coming to the masjid in the evening and reciting the Quran without a translation, without understanding its meanings, and being in an environment that's not enjoyable. No, none of that's going to stabilize our religion in the young generations. You have to speak to them and you have to let them speak. You have to let them express their feelings. You have to teach them in a way and in an environment that's enjoyable to them, right? Otherwise, this Islamophobia that we have in the larger community of non-Muslims, it's actually coming in within Islam and within Muslims that they're feeling a phobia. They're feeling frightened and scared of Islam. And that shouldn't be. If we were active in teaching, if we were active in actually constantly thinking, right? One of the things that is very important is that Islam needs to be a living reality in our homes. Right? It has to be a living reality in our homes. Why? Because if it's not, then this phobia that exists outside in the atmosphere will just enter into our homes, and you'll see kids saying, okay, I'll give up. I don't have to be in this religion where there's attacks every day and they are being labeled on Muslims. Right? We don't apologize on behalf of people who do attacks in the name of Islam, because those people have got nothing to do with Islam. They're not related to us and we're not related to them. Right? But the media is still going to put Islam and the Muslims on the front pages. So we have to deal with that firsthand. And we have to become active in introducing Islam. Not only with our words, but also with our actions. Not only with our actions, but the way we live with others within our communities. The way we interact with others within our communities. Recently I was called to a primary school where the head teacher is a non-Muslim lady, and most of the kids in that school were Muslim. And you know what the head teacher said? Is that these children disrespect me because I'm a woman. These Muslim children disrespect me because I'm a woman. And disrespect some other students who are not Muslim because of their religion. And these were tiny primary school kids, right, bullying women and bullying non-Muslims. Right? So there's an issue, there's clearly something going wrong within our communities, that children as young as primary stage children don't respect women. Why? Because they don't see that in their homes. Don't respect people of other religions. Why? Because they're not taught to respect other people. It's just about them, and that's it. Right? Whereas we see, when the Prophet ﷺ was coming back into Makkah al-Mukarramah after he went to the city of Al-Ta'if. The city of Al-Ta'if is not too far from Makkah. The Prophet ﷺ went out to it to call the people to Islam. When he got there, he found that the people of Al-Ta'if were worse than the people of Makkah. They stoned him out. They sent out their young ones to stone the Prophet ﷺ, so much so that his blessed sandals broke and blood began to shed from his noble body. Anyway, he left and he returned back to Makkah. As he got to Makkah, he wasn't allowed to enter into Makkah. Why? Because the Makkans thought he had gone to Al-Ta'if to gang up with the people of Al-Ta'if to wage war against the Makkans. And that wasn't the case. So they wouldn't allow him to come back into Makkah al-Mukarramah. So the Prophet ﷺ sent a message to a man whose name was Mut'im ibn Ali. What was his name? Mut'im ibn Ali. It's a very important name that we have to remember. Mut'im ibn Ali. Mut'im ibn Ali was not a Muslim, but he was a noble non-Muslim. He was a non-Muslim who had good qualities in him. He had good character in him. He had greatness in him. The Prophet ﷺ sent him a message saying, I want to come back into Makkah. These Makkahs are not allowing me in. Will you give me protection? Will you give me protection? And Mut'im ibn Ali said, of course I'll give you. He sent out all of his sons and said, go and bring Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to Makkah al-Mukarramah, make him do tawaf around the Kaaba, and if anybody asks you, then say, we are giving him security, so you better be careful. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam comes into Makkah in the protection of whom? Non-Muslims. Mut'im ibn Ali and his children. He's making tawaf around the Kaaba. Somebody comes to Mut'im and says, have you accepted his religion? He said, no, I have not accepted his religion, but I am giving him security and protection. I've accepted his request of protecting him. They said, fine. If you're protecting him, nobody's going to say anything to him. Mut'im ibn Ali died as a non-Muslim. Later on, his son, Jubayr, accepted Islam. Jubayr was the son of Mut'im, was the son of Ali. Jubayr ibn Mut'im ibn Ali. Jubayr accepted Islam. When Jubayr accepted Islam, the Prophet ﷺ praised his father, Mut'im ibn Ali, who died as a non-Muslim. And it didn't stop there. Sayyidina Hassan ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu, who is the poet of Islam, who used to write poetry for the Prophet ﷺ, wrote an entire poem praising Mut'im ibn Ali. Why did he praise a non-Muslim? Because that non-Muslim had such great qualities and such goodness in him that he protected our Prophet ﷺ. So from amongst the non-Muslims, you have people with good character. You have people with goodness in them who will accept your religion. Who will, if they don't accept your religion, then they'll at least respect your religion and let you live with it. Right? And those are the types of people that we need to connect onto. But we have to extend our hands to them, to find them, to introduce Islam to them, so that they can be the bridge between us and the wider community. So we hear, what do we see? The Prophet ﷺ showing respect to this non-Muslim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran al-Kareem, in Surah Al-Mumtahina, Allah said, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. Allah said in the Quran, Allah said, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم. Allah Azza wa Jal said, Allah does not stop you. I stop the Muslims. Allah does not prevent you and does not stop you. Does not prevent you and stop you from whom? Those who do not wage war against you, and nor do they expel you from your homes. They don't wage war against you, nor do they expel you from your homes. What does Allah not prevent you from doing to them? Allah said, لا ينهاكم الله أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم. Allah does not stop you from being good to them and dealing with them in a just way. With who? With those people who are good with you. Those who are good with you, those who don't wage war against you because of your religion, nor do they expel you from your homes. Allah said, Allah doesn't prevent you from being good to them, so why don't you be good to them? Allah doesn't prevent you from being just to them, so why don't you be just to them? And then Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ. Indeed, Allah loves those who are just. But here, who is He speaking about? He's speaking about Muslims being good and just non-Muslims who don't expel them from their homes as though they would wage war against them because of their religion. Right? So, nowhere in this religion we are encouraged to be bad to others, whether they are Muslim or not. Right? We have to introduce the greatness of our religion, the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ, onto the people of the world, onto the people of the world so that they know of who we are, what we are. Until people who don't know us, they'll always be scared of us. But once they know us, then they respect us. They should honor us for what we have and what we stand for. And this is very important. If for no other reason, for the generations to come after us, for the young that we have in our communities, is that so they don't feel humiliated with Islam. They don't feel that they are intimidated by being Muslim. This is very important. You know, when Muslims start to become intimidated about their religion, that's the most dangerous thing. Why? Because then people will denounce their religion. People will just give up. People will just say, okay, I'm not a Muslim. Right? So we need to tackle that issue head on. Why? Because tackling it will mean that Islam will continue in the generations to come. And not only in the generations to come, but it will become harmonious for the people who are not Muslim. It will be harmonious. And you know, in the world that we live in now, people are trying to portray that Muslims can't live with anybody else. Muslims can't live with non-Muslims. Right? This is why we need to study our own history. You know, in Palestine, when I went to visit Palestine 2 years ago, we visited a masjid in Bethlehem, Beit Lahem. In Bethlehem, we visited a masjid. It was called Masjid Umar al-Faruq. Sayyidina Umar al-Faruq, the second Khalifa of Islam. And it was right in front of the cathedral or the church where it is said that Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam was born. Why was that masjid built right across? Do you know why? You know, when Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he came to Palestine and he conquered Palestine, the Christian priest from that church said to Sayyidina Umar, you can come into our church and offer your prayer. He said, I'll give you space, come and pray in our church. You know what Sayyidina Umar said? Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he was very intelligent, he was very sharp, and he was very just. This is why his name was Al-Faruq, the one who differentiated between truth and falsehood, and the one who was the most just of people. So what did Sayyidina Umar say? He said, I'm not going to pray in your church. Why? Because if I, as the leader of the Muslims, pray in your church today, I fear that Muslims will later on say, we have to take this church from you because our Amir al-Mu'mineen prayed here. And I don't want the Muslims to take this church off you because of one single prayer of mine, so therefore I'm going to pray outside. He prayed outside of that church, so then the Muslims built a masjid where he prayed in remembrance of the prayer of Sayyidina Muhammad. Look at the intelligence. He said, if I pray in your church, maybe not now, maybe a few hundred years later, the Muslims will say, okay, you have to give this church to us because Sayyidina Umar prayed there. Look at the justness that the Muslims have, how they gave space to others. For hundreds of years, the Muslims have been living besides the Christians in Syria, in Palestine, in so many other countries. In India, with so many religions. India is like so many religions. We know the Hindus and the Sikhs, but there's so many other religions in India, and the Muslims have been living there for hundreds of years, alongside others, with absolute harmony. So this is what we need to study: is that Muslims have always lived with others and allowed for others to practice their religion without any fear from the Muslims, but rather with protection from Muslims. Do you know, in a Muslim country where the non-Muslims pay tax to the government, it's the duty of that Muslim government to protect all of the non-Muslims who pay their tax, right? From their sanctities being violated, from their life being taken. They have to be protected by the Muslims and the Muslim army the exact way the Muslims are protected, the houses of the Muslims are protected, the land of Muslim will protect everything. So nobody brings in people to Islam with the sword. Nobody brings in people to Islam with force. They can live with their religions wherever they want in the land of Islam, as long as they pay their tax, and the Muslims will protect them. Right? So what's also important is that we know and understand and read our history so that we can strengthen ourselves within ourselves. We can have strength in ourselves in knowing our religion and knowing that our religion is not something to be scared of, but rather something to be proud of. Something that we raise our heads with. We've got something that we can offer to all of the world. And you know, one of our teachers, he said, all of the world is thirsty for La ilaha illallah. All of the world is thirsty for La ilaha illallah. And you know, the water of La ilaha illallah is in the hands of the Muslims. And when they start to pour that water of La ilaha illallah, then people will start to drink and their thirst will be quenched. But when the Muslims don't pour that water of La ilaha illallah, then others become frightened of them, and hence this phobia is created. So those were active ways as to how we can deal with the phobia that's there in the atmosphere and in the communities that we live in, how we can get rid of it. So we have to study our religion. We have to know our religion. We have to introduce and speak about our religion. We can't shy away from it. You know, if people are misinterpreting and misrepresenting Islam, we shouldn't say, okay, I've got nothing to do with that. Or, okay, maybe somebody else can speak. No, stand up and speak. If you know what to say, if you can speak. If you don't, then go and find out. We should all be at a level where we can proudly speak on behalf of our religion. Proudly speak on behalf of our religion. And nobody can stop us, and nobody can put us down. You know, the worst thing in this world is to be humiliated. When a person becomes humiliated of their religion, that's a very dangerous place at this time, because it's very easy for them then to slip out of this religion. So phobia means Islam has this scare and this fear has always been from the time of the Prophet ﷺ throughout the 14th, the 15th centuries that we live, and we live it too now. Perhaps because we're living it, we might feel that it's more than any other time, but it's not really anything greater than what the time before had. It's probably much lesser than what the people before us had. But we have to equip ourselves with knowledge, with understanding of this religion, and we have to have courage to introduce, let people know about the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen this religion in our hearts and in our minds, such that we can stand up and introduce it out to others, and we can be proud of this religion. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakallah khair to our noble Shaykh for attending today and enlightening all of us. MashaAllah, the points that were mentioned were very profound, very relevant, and very inspiring for every single one of us to practical advice for every single one of us to take away. This is something that it gets very difficult for every single one of us. You know, grow a beard, attend the masjid, and unfortunately in the 21st century these things are not normal. This is seen as abnormal to the rest of society.